My name is Nadine, and I'm 72 years old. 5 years ago, my own son locked me inside my house, looked me dead in the eyes, and screamed that I would rot there. He took my phone, left me without food, and drove off to his vacation like I was nothing more than garbage to be forgotten. What Marcus did not know was that the basement held his biggest mistake, and what he forgot down there would become his worst nightmare. Before I tell you what I found in that basement, and how I turned the tables on my own son, I would love to know where you are joining me from today. Please take a moment to hit that subscribe button and leave a like. This story is proof that even at 67, a mother can still fight back. Now, let me take you back to the beginning. When all of this happened, I was 67 years old, living alone in Dayton, Ohio. My home was a beautiful Victorian house, 3 stories tall, built back in 1920. My husband Harold bought this place in 1982, and we spent 40 wonderful years together within these walls. Every room held a memory. The kitchen, where Harold would make his famous Sunday pancakes. The living room, where we watched our son take his first steps. The garden where Harold proposed to me for the second time on our 25th anniversary, just because he said the first time was not romantic enough. Harold passed away 5 years before the incident, taken by a heart attack that came without warning. One morning, he was laughing at breakfast, and by evening, he was gone. After his death, I considered selling the house. It was too big for one person, people said. Too much to maintain at my age. But how could I leave? Harold was everywhere in this house. His tools still hung in the garage exactly where he left them. His reading glasses still sat on the nightstand. Leaving would have felt like abandoning him all over again. So I stayed. And honestly, I was not lonely. I had wonderful friends in the neighborhood. Dorothy, who lived 3 houses down, had been my closest companion for over 30 years. We went to church together every Sunday, attended the same knitting circle on Wednesday evenings, and shared coffee almost every morning. There was also the book club, the garden committee, and the volunteer group at the local food bank. My days were full, my heart was content, and I thought I had found peace in my golden years. My only child was Marcus. He was 42 years old when everything fell apart. For most of his life, Marcus had been my pride and joy. Smart as a whip, that boy. Graduated top of his class, got his degree in business, and built a successful career in real estate. He married a lovely woman named Sandra, and they gave me a beautiful granddaughter, little Melissa. I remember thinking I was the luckiest mother in the world. But about 10 years before the incident, things started to change. It began innocently enough. Marcus mentioned he had gone to a casino with some work friends. Just for fun, he said. A boys' night out. I did not think anything of it. Then the trips became more frequent. Weekly poker games turned into daily online gambling. Small bets became large ones. Before any of us fully understood what was happening, Marcus was drowning in debt. Sandra tried to help him. She really did. They went to counseling, attended support groups, made budgets and plans. But the addiction was stronger than any of us realized. Marcus started lying about money, hiding credit card statements, borrowing from friends, and never paying back. When Sandra discovered he had taken out a second mortgage on their home without telling her, she had had enough. The divorce was finalized within 6 months. Sandra took Melissa and moved to California. I have not seen my granddaughter in person since. After the divorce, Marcus spiraled even further. He lost his job because he was caught using company funds to cover his gambling debts. He lost the house, he lost his car, he lost everything. And through it all, I tried to help him. How could I not? He was my son. I gave him money when he said he needed it for rent. I paid his bills when he promised it was the last time. I bailed him out of debt more times than I can count. Over the years, I gave Marcus more than $80,000. Harold had warned me before he died. He could see what was happening, even when I refused to accept it. Do not give him any more money. Nadine, Harold said to me one night when Marcus had called asking for another loan. He needs to learn. He needs to hit bottom and find his own way back up. You are not helping him. You are enabling him. I knew Harold was right. Deep down, I knew. But knowing something and accepting it are two very different things. Marcus was my baby. The child I had carried for 9 months, nursed through fevers, cheered at graduation. How could I watch him suffer and do nothing? 6 months before everything happened, Marcus showed up at my door. It was a Tuesday evening, raining hard, and there he was on my porch looking like a lost puppy. Mom, he said, I have changed. I have been going to meetings, I got a sponsor. I'm really trying this time. I just need a place to stay for a few weeks while I get back on my feet. My heart ached looking at him. Despite everything, despite all the lies and the broken promises, he was still my son. And he looked so sincere standing there in the rain. I let him in. I made him dinner. I set him up in his old bedroom on the second floor, still decorated with his high school trophies and college pennants. I told myself this time would be different. And for a while it seemed like it was. Marcus was helpful around the house. He fixed the leaky faucet in the bathroom that had been dripping for months. He painted the back fence that had been peeling. He cooked dinner several nights a week and cleaned up afterward without being asked. We would sit together in the evenings, watching television or playing cards, and it felt almost like old times. I started telling my friends that Marcus had turned his life around. Finally, I said to Dorothy over coffee one morning, "My boy is back." I bragged about his progress to the ladies at church. I even started thinking about updating my will to leave him everything. After all, he was my only child. Who else would I give it to? I had no idea that every kind gesture, every helpful act, every tender moment was all part of an elaborate performance. Marcus was playing the long game, and I was too blind with hope to see it. The first sign of trouble came about a month after Marcus moved back in. We were sitting at the kitchen table having breakfast when he brought up the house for the first time. "Mom," he said casually, stirring his coffee, "this house is really too big for you to manage alone. Have you ever thought about selling it?" I looked up from my toast, surprised. Sell the house? This was Harold's house. Our house. The place where we built our entire life together. "No," I told him firmly. "I have no intention of selling. I want to die in this house, Marcus. This is where I belong." He nodded slowly, and I thought that was the end of it. But something in his eyes made me uneasy. A flicker of something I could not quite identify. Disappointment, maybe, or calculation. It was gone so quickly that I convinced myself I had imagined it. A few days later, Marcus asked about my finances. Just casual questions at first. How was I managing the bills? Did I have enough in savings? Was my pension covering everything? He said he wanted to make sure I was financially secure, especially living alone. It seemed like such a caring thing to worry about. I trusted him completely. So when he asked to see my bank statements, just to make sure everything was in order, I showed him without hesitation. I let him see my savings accounts, my investment portfolio, everything. I even told him the exact amounts. Around 350,000 in savings, plus the house which was worth about 400,000. Not a fortune, but enough to live comfortably for the rest of my days. I remember the way Marcus looked at those numbers. His eyes lingered on the totals a little too long. His fingers tightened around the papers just a fraction. But I told myself I was being paranoid. This was my son. He was trying to help me. Then the paperwork started appearing. Marcus began bringing me documents to sign. Insurance updates, he explained. Tax forms, routine administrative stuff. "I'm helping you get organized, Mom. You should not have to deal with all this boring paperwork at your age." It seemed so thoughtful. Marcus would sit beside me with a pen pointing to the lines where I needed to sign. The documents were full of legal jargon I did not understand, but Marcus assured me it was all standard. Property tax exemptions for seniors, updates to emergency contact information, beneficiary designations. I signed everything he put in front of me. I barely even read the documents. Why would I? My son was helping me. He had my best interests at heart. That is what mothers believe about their children, even when every sign points to the contrary. 1 week passed, then 2. More documents appeared. Marcus always had a reasonable explanation. I signed my name over and over again, never questioning, never doubting. Looking back now, I want to shake myself for being so naive. But love makes us blind. Maternal love most of all. The wake-up call came from Dorothy. She called me one afternoon, and I could hear the worry in her voice immediately. Nadine, she said slowly, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest with me. Of course, I replied, confused by her serious tone. Did you add Marcus as a joint owner to your savings account? I felt like the floor had dropped out from under me. What, no? I never did that. Why would you ask such a thing? Dorothy worked part-time at our local bank. She had for 20 years. She knew everyone's business, though she was always discreet about it. But this was different. This was her best friend's well-being at stake. Nadine, there is paperwork here with your signature. It gives Marcus full access to your savings account. And there is a transfer request. $50,000 from your account to his. My hands started shaking so badly I nearly dropped the phone. Dorothy, that is impossible. I never signed anything like that. There has to be some mistake. But even as I said the words, a terrible suspicion was forming in my mind. All those documents Marcus had brought me, all those papers I had signed without reading. What exactly had I put my name to? Dorothy urged me to check everything. Go through all the paperwork, she said. Find out what you actually signed. And Nadine, be careful. That night, I waited until Marcus left the house. He said he was meeting an old friend for dinner. The moment his car pulled out of the driveway, I went to his room. I felt like a criminal in my own home, searching through my son's belongings. But I had to know. I had to see for myself. His room was neat, almost suspiciously so. Marcus had always been messy as a child. Now everything was perfectly organized. I searched through drawers and closets, finding nothing unusual. Then I noticed a leather briefcase tucked under the bed. It was locked with a small combination padlock. Harold had taught me a few tricks over the years. One of them was how to pick a simple lock with a bobby pin. My hands trembled as I worked, but within 5 minutes the lock clicked open. What I found inside made my blood run cold. There were documents with my signature that I had no memory of signing. A power of attorney giving Marcus complete control over all my assets. Transfer papers for my investment accounts. And most damning of all, a partially completed deed transfer that would put my house in Marcus's name. My son was not helping me get organized. He was systematically stealing everything I owned. I sat on the floor of his room, surrounded by evidence of his betrayal, and felt something inside me shatter. Harold had been right all along, and I had been too foolish, too hopeful, too desperate to believe in my son's redemption to see the truth. I did not sleep at all that night. I sat in the darkness of my bedroom, those documents spread across my bed, and tried to make sense of what my life had become. How had it come to this? How had the baby I had rocked to sleep, the boy I had raised with so much love, become someone capable of robbing his own mother? The next morning, I called Robert, our family lawyer. He had been Harold's best friend for decades, and I knew I could trust him completely. When I explained what I had discovered, the silence on the other end of the line told me everything I needed to know. "This is serious, Nadine," Robert finally said. "Based on what you are describing, Marcus has committed multiple counts of fraud and forgery. But I need to see the actual documents to confirm. In the meantime, do not let him know you are suspicious. Do not confront him until we have all our evidence in order." But I could not follow Robert's advice. The betrayal was too raw, the anger too fresh. When Marcus came home that afternoon, I was waiting for him at the kitchen table with all the documents spread out before me. His face when he walked in and saw what I had found. For just a moment, his mask slipped and I saw the real Marcus underneath. Cold, calculating, annoyed that his scheme had been discovered. "Explain these to me," I said, my voice steady despite the trembling in my hands. Marcus recovered quickly. His expression shifted to one of confusion, then concern. "Mom," he said, walking toward me, "what are you doing going through my things? Answer me," I demanded. "What are these papers? Why does this say I gave you power of attorney over all my assets. Why is there a transfer of $50,000 that I never authorized? He tried to gaslight me at first. Mom, you signed these yourself. Do not you remember? You have been forgetting things lately. Maybe we should get you checked out. I slammed my hand on the table. Do not you dare. My mind is perfectly clear. I never signed anything giving you access to my bank account. The pretense fell away like a snake shedding its skin. Marcus's face twisted into something ugly, something I had never seen before. His eyes went hard, his mouth curled into a sneer. You owe me, he hissed. After everything I have been through, you owe me. I owe you. I gave you over $80,000, Marcus. I paid your debts, your rent, your bills. How much more do you think I owe you? He laughed, but there was no humor in it. A cold, bitter sound that echoed off the kitchen walls. That is nothing compared to what you have. This house, your savings, your investments, it should all be mine anyway. I pushed back from the table, suddenly afraid. This was not the son I knew. This was a stranger wearing my son's face. I am your son. Marcus continued, advancing toward me. Your only child. Everything you have will be mine when you die. So why not give it to me now? Why make me wait? The words hit me like physical blows. He was not even pretending anymore. He did not want to help me. He wanted me dead so he could inherit everything. I'm calling the police, I said, trying to keep my voice from shaking. And I am changing my will. You will get nothing from me. Nothing. Marcus went very still. The temperature in the room seemed to drop 10 degrees. You would not dare, he said quietly. Watch me. I want you out of my house by tomorrow morning. You are done, Marcus. We are done. I turned to walk toward my bedroom, toward my phone, toward safety. But I only made it 3 steps. Marcus moved faster than I would have thought possible. He grabbed my arm, spun me around, and shoved me backward. I stumbled, caught myself on the counter, my heart pounding with fear I had never experienced before. You are not going anywhere, old woman, he said, and his voice was ice. He wrenched my phone from my pocket and threw it across the room. I heard it shatter against the wall. Then he grabbed me again, his fingers digging painfully into my arm, and began dragging me toward the back of the house. I fought him. I scratched and kicked and screamed, but I was 67 years old with arthritis in my knees and a heart condition that made me tire easily. Marcus was 42 and strong from years of manual labor. It was no contest. He threw me into the small bedroom on the first floor, the guest room, that Harold and I had rarely used. I hit the bed hard, the wind knocked out of me. Before I could recover, I heard the door slam and the lock click into place. I spent hours pounding on that door, screaming until my voice gave out. But our Victorian house sat on a large lot set back from the road with no immediate neighbors. No one could hear me. Late that night, the door opened just long enough for Marcus to throw a bottle of water onto the floor. This should last you a day or two, he said flatly. Marcus, please, I am your mother. You cannot do this. He stared at me with those cold, empty eyes. You should have just signed everything over. You should have made this easy. What are you going to do? He smiled, and it was the most terrifying thing I had ever seen. I have a vacation planned. A week in Florida. When I get back, you will either sign everything over to me willingly, or... He shrugged. Well, let us just say accidents happen to old people all the time. The door closed, the lock clicked, and I was alone. I did not sleep. How could I sat in the darkness, my back against the headboard, and listen to the sounds of my son moving through my house like he owned it? Which I supposed was exactly what he intended. The next morning, light crept through the edges of the window. Marcus had nailed it shut from the outside at some point. I could see the fresh marks on the frame. He had planned this. He had probably been planning it for months. I heard his footsteps in the hallway. The door opened, and he stood there with a small backpack over his shoulder, dressed in casual vacation clothes. He looked like any normal person heading to the airport, not like someone who had just imprisoned his elderly mother. Marcus, I said, hating how weak my voice sounded. Please, do not do this. I am your mother. I gave you life. I raised you. I loved you. He tilted his head, studying me like I was an insect under a microscope. You stopped being my mother when you chose your money over me, he said. I never chose money over you. I gave you everything I could. Not enough. Never enough. He threw another bottle of water and a single granola bar onto the bed. This is all you get. I will be gone for a week. I called your friends, told them you went to visit your sister in Florida. I do not have a sister in Florida, I said, bewildered. Marcus smiled. They do not know that. No one will come looking for you, Mom. No one will know you are here. I tried to stand, but my legs were shaking too badly. Marcus watched me struggle for a moment, then stepped forward and shoved me back onto the bed. Stay down, old woman. Then he leaned close, so close I could smell the coffee on his breath, and said the words that will haunt me until the day I die. You are gonna rot in here. You are gonna rot in here. His voice echoed off the walls of that tiny room. Then the door slammed shut. The lock clicked into place. I heard his footsteps, retreating, the jingle of car keys, the front door opening and closing, the engine of his car starting up, the crunch of gravel as he backed out of the driveway. Then silence. Complete, absolute silence. I lay there on the bed, staring at the ceiling, and let the reality of my situation wash over me. I was 67 years old. I was locked in a room with one bottle of water and one granola bar. My son had told everyone I was out of town. No one would come looking for me. If I did nothing, I would die in this room. I do not know how long I lay there, feeling sorry for myself. An hour, maybe two. The sun climbed higher in the sky, sending thin beams of light through the gaps in the nailed window. I watched dust motes dance in those beams and thought about Harold. What would Harold do? The answer came immediately. Harold would not lie here waiting to die. Harold would fight. Harold would find a way. I forced myself to sit up. My body ached from the struggle the night before, but nothing seemed broken. I took stock of my resources. One bottle of water, one granola bar, a small attached bathroom with a working toilet and sink. At least I would not die of thirst immediately. I examined the room more carefully. The main door was solid oak, original to the house. I was not breaking through that. The window was nailed shut and too small to squeeze through, even if I could get the nails out. The walls were plaster over brick. No help there. Then my eyes fell on the bathroom. It was tiny, barely large enough for a toilet sink and shower stall. But there was something else. A ventilation grate in the ceiling about 18 inches square. I remembered Harold talking about the ventilation system when we first bought the house. These old Victorians, he had said, they have all these hidden spaces between the floors. The original builders used them for air circulation before central heating was common. Harold had crawled through those spaces once to fix some pipes. I remember him emerging, covered in dust and cobwebs, laughing about the adventure. Could I fit through that grate? I pulled myself up onto the bathroom counter and reached for the grate. My fingers brushed the metal, but I could not get enough leverage to pull it free. I needed to be higher. I looked around the bathroom, the toilet tank. I could stand on that. But even then, I was not quite tall enough. What else? What else could I use? The small trash can under the sink, a stack of old magazines on the back of the toilet. I gathered everything I could find and began building a makeshift platform. It was precarious, dangerous for a woman my age. One wrong move and I could fall, break a hip, and die slowly on the bathroom floor. But what choice did I have? I climbed up carefully, one wobbly step at a time. My knees screamed in protest. My heart pounded with exertion and fear. But I kept going, higher, higher. Finally, I could reach the grate properly. I pushed with all my strength. For a terrible moment, nothing happened. Then, with a groan of old metal, the grate popped free and clattered into the dark space above. I pulled myself up and into the ventilation space. It was pitch black, thick with dust, and so cramped I could barely breathe. But I was free of that room. Now I just had to find my way to the basement. The space between the floors was exactly as Harold had described. Cramped, dusty, full of old wiring and insulation. I could not stand or even crouch. I had to crawl on my belly like a soldier in a war movie. I could not see anything. The darkness was absolute. I moved by feel, running my hands along the wooden beams, trying to remember the layout of my own house. I needed to head east toward the back of the house where the main staircase was. From there, I could find my way down. Every movement hurt. My knees scraped against rough wood, my elbows bruised on support beams. Something skittered away from my reaching hand, and I had to bite my lip to keep from screaming. Rats, probably. Or mice. I told myself it did not matter. Keep moving. Keep going. I have no idea how long I crawled through that darkness. It felt like hours, though it was probably only 15 or 20 minutes. Finally, my hand touched another grate. I pressed my eye to the slats and saw pale light below. The laundry room. I recognized the old washing machine Harold had refused to replace because it still worked perfectly fine. I pushed at the grate, but it did not budge as easily as the bathroom one. I pushed harder, feeling my arms tremble with the effort. "Come on," I whispered. "Come on!" Finally, with a screech of metal, it gave way. I tumbled through the opening and hit the laundry room floor hard. Pain shot through my hip and shoulder. I lay there for a moment, gasping, tears streaming down my face. But I could not stop now. I forced myself to stand. Limped through the laundry room to the door that led to the basement stairs. The door was not locked. Marcus had not thought to secure it because he never imagined I would escape from that room. His arrogance was my salvation. I opened the door and stared down into the darkness of the basement. Harold had always joked that our basement was like a time capsule. Decades of accumulated memories, furniture, holiday decorations, and mysterious boxes that nobody remembered packing. But Harold had told me something else about the basement, something important. "This old house has secrets, Nadine," he had said one evening while we sat on the porch watching the sunset. Hidden passages, old phone lines, things people forgot about. When they first built places like this, they ran telephone wires through the walls in case of emergency. Most of those lines are still there, just disconnected. If anything ever happens, remember the basement. I had laughed at the time, asked him what kind of emergency he was imagining. He had just smiled and shaken his head. "You never know, Nadine. You never know." I descended the stairs slowly, holding onto the railing with both hands. At the bottom, I found the light switch and flipped it on. The single bare bulb cast a yellow glow over mountains of boxes, old furniture, and forgotten treasures. I started searching. I needed that old phone line Harold had mentioned, but the basement was huge and cluttered, and I had no idea where to begin. Then I remembered. Harold had said the original phone junction was in the far corner near the old coal chute that had not been used since the 1950s. I picked my way through the maze of boxes, shoving aside old Christmas decorations and broken chairs. And there it was. Mounted on the wall, covered in cobwebs and dust, was an ancient black rotary telephone, the kind they used in old movies, a relic from before I was even born. I lifted the receiver with trembling hands. No dial tone. My heart sank. But then I remembered. The phone needed to be connected to the wall jack. I traced the cord to where it had come unplugged, probably decades ago, during some long-forgotten renovation. I pushed the plug into the socket, lifted the receiver again. The dial tone sang in my ear like a choir of angels. I was so relieved I nearly collapsed. But I was not done yet. I still needed to call for help. And as I caught my breath, I noticed something else in the basement. A cardboard box that had been recently disturbed. The dust around it was smeared with fingerprints. Someone had opened it not long ago. Curious despite everything, I pulled the box toward me and looked inside. What I found made me forget about the phone for a moment. Inside were papers, dozens of them. Bills, letters, documents. And they all had Marcus's name on them. Gambling debts totaling over $200,000. Letters from loan sharks threatening violence. And worse, much worse, documents showing that Marcus had defrauded at least 3 other elderly people before me. An 82-year-old woman named Helen Turner, from whom he had stolen $60,000. A 75-year-old man named James Crawford, $45,000. Another victim, another. My son was not just trying to rob me. He was a serial predator who targeted vulnerable seniors. And he had hidden all the evidence right here in my basement. I understood then what the thumbnail of the story meant. What Marcus did not know was that the basement held his mistake. He had hidden his crimes here, never imagining that I would find them, never imagining that his own secrets would be his undoing. I carefully gathered the most damning documents and set them aside. Then I picked up that beautiful old rotary phone and began to dial. The first call I made was to Robert, my lawyer. My hands shook so badly that I kept misdialing, having to start over again and again. But finally the connection went through. Nadine Roberts' voice was sharp with concern. "Is that you? Where are you calling from?" "I am in my basement," I said, and then I told him everything. The imprisonment, the escape, the documents I had found. The silence on the other end of the line stretched so long I thought the connection had been lost. Then Robert spoke, his voice grim. "Stay where you are. I am calling the police right now." "Wait," I said. "I have an idea." "Nadine, this is not the time for ideas. You need to get out of that house. If I just call the police, Marcus will know something went wrong. He might run, he might disappear, and we will never catch him. But if I can get him to come back here to walk right into a trap..." Robert started to argue, but I cut him off. I explained my plan. It was risky, I knew that. But I had not crawled through darkness and dust just to let my son escape justice. Finally, reluctantly, Robert agreed. "I will have the police set up surveillance around your house," he said. "Hidden officers, unmarked cars. When Marcus arrives, they will be ready. But Nadine, this is dangerous." "Are you sure?" "I am sure," I said. "I need to see his face when they take him away. I need him to know that his own mother brought him down." The next call was to Dorothy. When she heard my voice, she burst into tears. "Oh, thank God," she kept saying. "Thank God you are alive." I knew something was wrong. I told them, "You did not have a sister in Florida," but no one listened. I explained what had happened and what I needed her to do. Dorothy promised to alert our network of friends to make sure everyone knew the truth about Marcus. Then, I called the police. Detective Harrison, a woman with a no-nonsense voice, listened to my story with professional calm. She promised that officers would be at my house within the hour. Finally, it was time to make the most important call of all. I found Marcus's cell phone number in the documents he had hidden. My finger hovered over the dial for a long moment. Then I took a deep breath and called my son. He answered on the third ring. "Who is this?" I made my voice weak and wavering. "Marcus." "It is Mom." A long pause. I could hear beach sounds in the background, waves, seagulls, people laughing. He was already enjoying his vacation while I was supposed to be dying alone. "How did you..." "Where are you calling from?" "The basement," I said. "The old phone." "Marcus, I found your box." Another pause, longer this time. "What box?" I listed the names of his victims. Helen Turner, 82 years old, $60,000. James Crawford, 75, 45,000. "I have it all, Marcus. Every piece of paper. Every crime you have committed." His breathing changed, faster, harsher. "You are bluffing. Come home and see for yourself," I said. "Come home and we can talk about this. Maybe I will not go to the police if you come back. Maybe we can work something out." Even as I said the words, I knew he would not believe them. Not really. But his greed would make him come anyway. His need to retrieve those documents to destroy the evidence would overpower any suspicion. "I will be there in 4 hours," he said. And the line went dead. I hung up the phone and allowed myself a small smile. The trap was set. The police arrived within the hour, just as Detective Harrison had promised. She was a solid woman in her mid-40s, with sharp eyes that missed nothing. She examined the documents I had found, and her expression grew grimmer with each page. "This is enough to put him away for a very long time, Mrs. Nadine," she said. "Fraud, elder abuse, false imprisonment. Your son is looking at serious prison time." Officers were positioned around the property, hidden in neighboring yards and unmarked vehicles. The stage was set. All we had to do was wait. Dorothy came to be with me. She held my hand in the kitchen while we watched the driveway through the window. "You are the bravest woman I know," she said. I shook my head. "I'm just a mother who finally opened her eyes." 4 hours later, almost to the minute, Marcus's car came tearing up the driveway. He must have broken every speed limit between here and Florida. He burst through the front door, his face red with anger and fear. "Mom, where are you? Give me those papers." I stepped out of the kitchen, calm and steady. "I'm right here, Marcus." He froze when he saw me. I was not the broken old woman he had left locked in a room. I was standing tall, dressed in clean clothes, with the evidence of his crimes neatly organized on the table beside me. His eyes darted around the room, looking for the documents, looking for an escape. "It is too late," I said quietly. The door behind him opened. Detective Harrison stepped in, flanked by 3 uniformed officers. "Marcus Davis." Detective Harrison said, "You are under arrest for fraud, elder abuse, and false imprisonment. You have the right to remain silent." Marcus's face contorted with rage. He turned to look at me, and in that moment I saw nothing but hatred in my son's eyes. "You will regret this," he spat. But as they put the handcuffs on him and led him away, I felt nothing but peace. Not regret, not even anger anymore, just a profound sense of relief that it was finally over. The trial took place 6 months later. I sat in the courtroom every single day, watching as the prosecution laid out the full extent of Marcus's crimes. It was worse than even I had imagined. The documents in the basement were just the tip of the iceberg. Once the investigation started, more victims came forward. 5 other elderly people had been scammed by my son over the past decade. The testimonies were heartbreaking. An 89-year-old woman who had lost her entire retirement savings. A widower who had been forced to move in with his children because Marcus had stolen his house. Story after story of trust, betrayed, of vulnerability, exploited, of lives destroyed. Marcus showed no remorse. He sat at the defense table with the same cold expression he had worn when he locked me in that room. When victims spoke of their suffering, he did not flinch. When his own mother took the stand to testify against him, he stared at me like I was a stranger. The jury deliberated for less than 4 hours, guilty on all counts. The judge sentenced Marcus to 12 years in prison. As they led him away in handcuffs, he finally looked at me. Our eyes met across the courtroom. I expected to see anger, hatred, maybe even regret. But there was nothing. His eyes were empty. The son I had raised, the boy I had loved with all my heart, was gone. Perhaps he had been gone for a long time. I walked out of that courthouse into the spring sunshine and felt Harold beside me. Not literally, of course, but his presence, his spirit, his wisdom. He had tried to warn me. He had given me the tools to save myself. And in the end, he had been right about everything. The months after the trial were difficult. I had to face the reality of what my son had become. There were nights when I could not sleep, when I replayed every moment of his childhood, looking for signs I had missed. Had I been too lenient, too indulgent? Had my love been the very thing that enabled his worst impulses? I started seeing a therapist, a kind woman named Dr. Patterson, who specialized in family trauma. She helped me understand that I could not carry the responsibility for Marcus's choices. He was an adult. He had made his own decisions. I had loved him, supported him, given him every opportunity. What he did with those gifts was not my fault. Slowly I began to heal. 5 years have passed since that terrible day. I'm 72 now, still living in my old Victorian house. I had it updated with a modern security system. Cameras watch every entrance. Motion sensors alert me if anyone approaches at night. Not because I'm afraid, but because I refuse to be caught off guard ever again. I volunteer 3 days a week at the County Senior Center. I tell my story to anyone who will listen. Elder abuse often comes from those we love most, I tell them. Watch for the warning signs. Do not let love blind you to danger. I have helped dozens of families recognize the signs of financial exploitation. I have testified before the state legislature about the need for better protections for seniors. I have turned my pain into purpose. Marcus writes to me sometimes from prison. The first few letters were angry, full of blame and accusations. I did not respond. Then the letters changed. They became self-pitying, full of excuses. I did not respond to those either. A year ago, a letter arrived that was different from all the others. It was short, just a few lines. Mom, I am sorry. I know that does not fix anything. I know I can never undo what I did. But I wanted you to know that I think about it every day. I think about who I became and how I got here. I am in therapy now. I am trying to understand myself. I do not expect you to forgive me. I just needed you to know. I read that letter many times. I cried over it. And eventually I wrote back. Marcus, I said I forgive you. Not for your sake but for mine. I cannot carry this anger anymore. It is too heavy. I hope someday you find peace. I hope someday you become the man you were supposed to be. I will always love the boy you were. I will always grieve the man you became. But I am done being your victim, Mom. He never wrote back. Maybe he did not know what to say. Maybe my forgiveness was too much for him to accept. It does not matter. I did not forgive him for his benefit. I forgave him because I needed to be free. And I am free now. At 72, I am stronger than I have ever been. I have friends who love me, a purpose that drives me, and a peace that I never thought I would find again. That day when Marcus locked me in that room and screamed that I would rot there, he thought he was sentencing me to death. He thought he was ending my story. But he underestimated his mother. He forgot that Harold had given me the keys to survival years before. And he had no idea that his own greed, his own secrets, hidden in that basement would be his downfall. I look back on that experience now and I see it differently than I once did. Yes, it was the worst thing that ever happened to me. But it was also a gift. It showed me how strong I really am. It taught me that it is never too late to fight back. It proved that even in our darkest moments, there is always a way out if we refuse to give up. So to anyone out there who is going through something similar, who is being hurt by someone they love, who feels trapped and hopeless, I want you to know this. You're stronger than you think. There is always a basement, there is always an old phone line. There is always a way. You just have to be brave enough to look for it. I do not know what the future holds for Marcus. I do not know if he will ever truly change. But I know this. I survived. I am still here. And every single day I choose to live fully, to love deeply, and to never, ever let anyone make me feel powerless again. Now I have a question for you. Have you ever had to stand up against someone you loved? Have you ever found strength you did not know you had? I would love to hear your stories in the comments below. Please share your experiences because you never know who might need to hear them. If this story touched you, please hit that like button and share it with someone who might need to hear it too. Subscribe to this channel so you never miss another story of survival and strength. Thank you for listening to my story. Thank you for letting me share this painful chapter of my life. I hope it helps someone out there find the courage to fight back. May you always have the strength to escape your prisons, whatever form they take. May you always find your basement when you need it most. And may you always remember that it is never too late to reclaim your life. Take care of yourselves and each other. Until next time.